Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. Well, there's Bugsy Malone up in the front. I'm not sure if you can see her. She says hello. This is episode 242 of Tottenham Walks. How are you? Welcome to the new season. It's July the 1st. Happy new month, happy new season. I hope you all have appropriate levels of expectation and optimism, sprinkled with a little bit of skepticism, but overall excitement is the perfect recipe to go into July. 6 more weeks until the season starts. So much work to do. Let me ask you for some favours before we talk about the latest in the transfer news, views and clues, my friends. Please smash the like button for me on the video like you always do. Yesterday, another video that got over 1,000 likes. Bravo, people, bravo. Absolutely insane support. Very much appreciate it. Whilst you're at it, hit the subscription if you haven't already. 10,200 people have gone before you. If you haven't already, that would be awesome if you could join them. And whilst you're at it, hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic. We are moving the story up the pitch towards the inside forward roles. Noise all over the media today is Harvey Barnes has chosen Tottenham, that Ange has won his 4th transfer in Harvey Barnes. Rumours are, and it's not from particularly poor journalism, the Daily Express started it with the clickbait headline. As you get to about paragraph 4, you quickly realise that there's nothing really material in there to make it kind of make sense, make it stick. It's very clickbaity. But Fabrizio Romano mentioned it in his Caught Offside Substack, which isn't, he hasn't spoken about it on his Twitter feed, so maybe he's just running with the rumours. And like I say, the value's about £30 million. So I've got some concerns about this one. Let's presume it's true for the sake of the argument. For me, the benefits, he's a very good player, right? Very, very talented player. I think he got 13 goals and 7 assists last season in a relegated Leicester team in 34 appearances. For an inside forward, that's a really very, very strong return. Let's not also undervalue the fact that he's English and homegrown. Don't forget, Tottenham need to find 8 players in the squad that are homegrown. And we have got, I think it's fair to say, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, let me know if you disagree, but I think it's reasonable to say that we've got a couple of players hanging around in our squad that wouldn't otherwise be there because they are homegrown. You can make the argument Japhet Tanganga is one of them. You can make the argument that Ryan Sessegnon is one of them. And maybe difficult decisions that would otherwise be easier to make regarding their futures, if they were French or German or Portuguese, would be easier to be making those decisions if you didn't have to rely on that homegrown number so much. So maybe Harvey Barnes coming in immediately makes it easier to make a difficult decision around one of those 2 players. I very much like Harvey Barnes. I would love him in a Tottenham shirt, providing the following criteria were met. 1, that spending the money on his transfer does not dilute the amount of money that we have left over to fill the far more influential and consequential areas of the pitch that need filling, i.e. 2 centre-backs and, in my opinion, a backup number 6. 2, that he would come in knowing that he's competing for space with a player, in all likelihood, in Sonny, who commands more minutes than his form sometimes deserves. I think it's not unreasonable to say that last season Sonny at times was playing to a level that deserved him to be rotated and rested more than he was. His form picked up towards the end of the season. I personally think he will get better and better. If it's true about his injury holding him back last season, then fair enough. And also I think that the system didn't suit him. I think I was one of the first guys to be talking about how much of a cramping of space, the kind of twisted 3-4-3 we were playing with Perisic slightly higher up the pitch and Ben Davies also kind of eroding that space. It made it more and more difficult for Sonny to get his usual flow going. However, my point is that he is a player who has such a reputation at the club, and maybe there's other factors that impact this, such as the fact that he's Korean and so much of the commercial aspect of that is still relevant. How many fans are Korean that come to the ground really to watch him more so than Tottenham? So I think that there is a bit of a pressure to give that man more minutes maybe than his form sometimes deserves. However, I still think that this season his form is going to pick back up because I think the system's going to suit him far better. So is Harvey Barnes going to be okay with fighting for that space? Is he going to be okay recognising that he's also fighting for space with Richarlison and Decky potentially, and James Madden potentially? Look, Tottenham do need another inside forward. If Bryan Hill is going to remain at the club as well, then there's still space for one more inside forward. If Bryan Hill doesn't, then there's definitely a need for maybe one, maybe even two inside forwards. For me, the concern is that we do a repeat of what happened with Richarlison. That would be, you spend the lion's share or a giant chunk of a very precious budget on a player that doesn't come in and get enough minutes. I'm a massive fan of Harvey Barnes, massive fan of him, but maybe, just maybe, it would be better for Tottenham to go a little bit more junior, go and get a player who would be okay to come in and compete but not expect, absent injuries, and also save that money and go bigger in the number 6 spot. I've mentioned before in yesterday's video, for example, how crucial I think it is to have backup for Yves Bissouma, simply because if Yves Bissouma picks up an injury, and remember he's still recovering from major surgery, if he was to pick up an injury on day one and Højbjerg's already left the club and maybe goes to Atletico Madrid, then Tottenham Hotspur would be left with having to play Skippy or Sarr in the 6 role for the opening day of the season, and maybe both of them because Bentancur's out as well. And all of a sudden you go from an incredibly strong looking midfield 3 to an incredibly question marked midfield 3. I don't think Skippy has shown enough competence on the ball to be able to play the crucial role that the number 6 requires. The Callum McGregor role in the Celtic system, which is what Postecoglou will try to emulate, requires you to be an absolute beast off the ball, but an absolute brilliant technical footballer on the ball, where you can spring passes and spray passes left and right and centre. I've not seen anything from Ollie Skipp to think that on the ball he is good enough to command that place. Pape Sarr may become a wonderful player, but at 19, 20 years old, however old he is, I don't think we've seen enough of him to have the full confidence that he can step in to that particular role immediately should something happen to Bissouma and grab the ball by the horns. Just don't know. It's a question mark, and I don't want to go into the season with that big of a question mark over that big of a position. So for me, I think to go big on Harvey Barnes is fine as long as there's enough money to still go and get your 2 centre-backs like a Van der Ven and an Edmund Tapsoba, and also have enough money left over for hopefully a Sofiane Amrabat. Maybe you could go and do the straight swap with Fiorentina for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg with a little bit of money going in the other direction. Maybe you could go to Barcelona and see if you can get something done for Frank Kessie. Whatever. I'm just saying that Harvey Barnes is a wonderful player, but at 30 million, if it is 30 million, that is a lot of money to spend on a player that, absent an injury or absent Harry Kane moving on and there being a complete reshuffle of the positions, I think there's a lot of money going to a player that's going to be a squad rotation player. Maybe you can foresee an example or a scenario rather where Harry Kane does move to Bayern Munich, and on that note, that noise is not going away. I think Romano, again in that Substack mentioned today, he stands by it, that the idea that Bayern Munich have agreed personal terms with the family of Harry Kane, that's not a story that's going away. And that maybe Bayern Munich are preparing themselves for a second bid. This time will be more formal and closer to whatever number it is that they think is more realistic. To me, I'm still not that concerned. I still think Harry Kane will be at Tottenham this season, and so we shouldn't worry about it too much. But in a world where it does happen, you might then find Tottenham moving to a system where Sonny plays in the 9 or Richarlison plays in the 9. And in that scenario, there's far more space, far more room, far more minutes for Harvey Barnes to come in naturally, and then the story makes a lot more sense. Let me know your thoughts though. Like, first and foremost, how highly do you value Harvey Barnes? The money, maybe at 30 million, look, the guys who were saying this one's 30 were also saying that Maddison was 60, and Maddison ended up being 40 and possibly net 30 if Harry Winks goes in the other direction. So maybe if these people are saying 30 for Harvey Barnes, maybe we could get it done for 20. And if that's the case, then I think there's too much value there to mess around with. Of course, you go and get that one done. He's such a good player, and injuries and form will happen. Will Harvey Barnes be willing and ready and prepared, though, to sit on the bench when he's a guaranteed starter in a Leicester team, and he's a guaranteed starter for a lot of the other teams that are looking at him, like West Ham and maybe Crystal Palace, other teams in London that are keeping a keen eye on the situation. But according to these reports, Harvey Barnes has chosen Tottenham. Maybe to come down with his mate James Maddison. Maybe that is a factor that's being a part of the draw. Maybe Postecoglou, if there's truth to this, has promised him minutes to make it make sense. Who knows? There's a whole bunch of variables. For me, though, I just have concerns, and my concerns are not over the player. My concerns, once again, I don't want the risk of repeating myself, are the consequences of expanding your budget expense into areas that need to be helped, but not holes that need to be filled. We absolutely need a new wing forward. For me, there's players out there that play in, Belgium. I'm not going to say his name. I will say his name one more time. Andreas Skov-Olsen, for me, is a wonderful choice, and he won't cost 30 million. I think you could get him for 15. And I think that guy has got so much talent that he could come in and be a part of a rotational squad. There's other players. There's so many other players. What about Manuel Solomon from Fulham / Shakhtar Donetsk? He's a free transfer if the ruling that was made by FIFA and UEFA stands. Wouldn't he make more sense not having to spend a penny on him and then having that 20, 30 million, whatever it is, to go and make sure you go and get Edmund Tapsoba or go and get Mickey van der Ven. Make sure that you're not being gazumped by any of the other bigger teams that are sniffing around for both of those players, Liverpool, Arsenal, etc. Although it looks more and more likely like Arsenal are going to sign Jurriën Timber, who is a wonderful player. Yeah, to me, guys, like I say, Harvey Barnes, if it's true, I'm on board it. I think he's a wonderful player. But for the love of God, Daniel Levy, do not do what you did last year with Richarlison, which is spend an exorbitant amount of money on a player that doesn't naturally get that many minutes because of the shape of our forward line anyway, and the players that he's competing with for the space and the minutes in the first place, and the kind of wins, the credits in the bank that these players have got, where even when their form drops, they will still maintain the faith of the manager. Get him in if he's willing to come in and compete, and as long as it doesn't stop us spending money on players in positions that are far more important. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, bye-bye.